Hey guys, this is Leo to review, and I wanted to go over a game by Irrelevant in the 2024 Winter Split. The game I'm going to be going over is him versus Oscarinin, so against Fnatic, which I think really highlights this player's strength and play. Now, I'll admit, in my LEC power rankings, I definitely did not rate this guy as highly. I will honestly say I probably did not watch him as much as I should have, so the rating is not as true as it should be. And this is here to do justice to him. So if you look at his season 12 and his season 13 stats, it's not particularly interesting. Granted, usually a player on a losing team doesn't have insane stats, especially if you're a top laner. If you notice, like 7.6 CS per minute, I mean, must be fighting a lot. Kill participation doesn't really matter. Picks, pretty good. Like, pretty good variety of picks overall. This is fine for the most part. You see he has 14 solo kills, which is actually pretty damn impressive. And this is like, how would I say? If there's one stat to pay attention to on a player on a losing team, it's actually this one. Because typically I've seen top laners on losing teams. And a top laner I even had on my team named Lunacia. And then following that split, there was a guy named Quacker, who will have a ton of solo kills. But the rest of everything looks kind of whatever. And that kind of shows that they're kind of doing their job in the laning phase. Like, they're getting a lead. They're getting, like, a foothold on the map. But, like, nothing else is really working out for the team. Like, this is pretty even. That's not bad. You go into season 13. It's really similar. Like, super similar, as you notice. Again, 18 solo kills. That's pretty damn interesting. So these, like, little few things give you a possible indicator that he could be better than he actually is. And so that is, like I said, that is why I want to highlight this. He's been in LEC for 2 years. He was on Misfits. And then he was... Actually, no, it's only been for 1 year, hasn't it? No, it's been for 2 years. Yeah. About, like, 1.5 years. Let's say that. 1.5 years with Misfits. And then on SK, right? So let's really get into it, guys. Like, let's stop going over this whole, like, highlight of who he is, what his past is. So he's playing he's playing Jackson to Renekton. As anyone knows with this matchup, Renekton has to trade inside the wave with his Q to ever get any priority. If he's late to the wave and he's, like, second, it'll be a huge pain in the ass to even do anything, and the Jax can just build 3 waves, cheater 4, and enjoy life. If it's even, like, it's gonna be... it'll be a bit spicy, and it'll be dependent on how well the players space out the Renekton Qs, both sides. So the Renekton, he starts here, he tests no bone plating, so he already knows, okay, so there's no bone plating by this guy. This guy's running what? He's running second win and unflinching. Okay, good for Renekton to know. That means he can always go for his Ws if Jack's E is down. So they're dancing into each other. He's trying to bait a Q. If Renekton throws a Q before this wave hits, Jax is going to just get priority and Renekton would have lost the lane. So, or at least not lost the lane, but lost the initiative towards the first 3 waves. So he doesn't fall for the bait. He gets into the wave. He starts hitting. They both start hitting. This guy went grasp. So if he went grasp, that means having short trades are going to be beneficial to Jax. The long lethal tempo trades are not going to be as good. He throws a Q out into the wave, so Jax knows, okay, this guy has nothing. As everyone knows, as a Jax player, you auto and then you press E, so then the minions are hitting you and your E powers up. So he does this. The bone plating is gone. He gets a grasp proc. Nice little trade. Back on the wave. No problem. Now Renekton, he wants to throw out his Q and try to get a little bit more going. If Renekton was actually more patient and he built up his rage for his second Q and he played into with the empowered Q, he actually probably could hit level 2 much sooner than the Jax and have more control over the wave. But that is just not the case, because he throws his Q a little bit early. So the Jax, he's like, okay, this is fine. You didn't really get too much off this. Same with this. It's the same principle in that while this guy has control, and he could have like hit this minion and then just like played a little bit more of just like free hitting, saving his Q. When he walks in for this, he's trying to get an extra one in again. If he saves it and he trades autos, like I said, again, the Renekton has the power, based on how this initial wave's played, to gain the push and control, but he's kind of rushing the situations, and the Jax knows, like Irrelevant knows this, and his E's coming back up. So now at this point, he's like, okay, this guy has a high chance of hitting level 2 first, right? Because of how the minions are spread out. In this case, I kind of have to really play on my E and zone him from that situation to even this out, which is what he does. So he's able to... Sorry for doing the backtracking. It's just to help show this. So notice he's going to go in and out, in and out. And so at this point, Renekton has his Q almost up. The Renekton wants to be able to Q this to get the level 2, right? He tries to throw the Q on the back foot while this guy's moving, but he turns around, gets the minion. Now he has no Q. Now he's super happy. This guy's level 2 first. Cool, but he has E. He can't throw his W out. And then Jax is like, okay, well, this minion's about to die, right? This minion's about to die, so now I can kind of initiate this trade and force this situation. This Renekton didn't go W yet, so he backs out. It's like, okay, you used your E. Now you don't have much pressure on me at all. And that's why he goes for this little grass proc, because it's like, what are you going to do? Throw your Q out that's, like, not enraged? So that guy gets nothing. He's just waiting on his E. You know, he has 5 seconds on this. He's being, like, safe with this. Takes... Actually, I don't know if he took the Q even there. Let's see. He has 590 HP. Yeah, he took it. So he lost 60 HP. So be it. He doesn't really care. Like, the damage is not too serious on him. And even though he could trade onto this Renekton now even, and like try to force his E again, he's just waiting, you know. He's just playing for the wave, because in the end, if he controls the wave, he's in a good situation. His jungler's pathing down. And this is interesting because his jungler actually switches around, so like they can't dive bot, right? His jungler's already looking towards top, which tells me that either Irrelevant told the Rel well ahead of time that, oh, by the way, I can get this guy low. I can make this situation happen, and we can like actually screw this guy over, which is damn impressive if he actually is calling this that early. Because once the Renekton, and I'm going to show this right here. Once the Renekton gets close to him, because granted, if he presses E when the Renekton's like over here, so if Jax is here, and if Jax is like around here, right, and the Renekton's here, the Renekton will dodge it with his E every single time. The E won't go through. But if the Renekton's on top of him, he can walk with the Renekton and then land the Q. So Irrelevant knows this, and this is why he gets a fat trade on this guy. And so that's Oscarinin kind of trying to contest the third wave without thinking, oh shit, maybe this is not good. Now he doesn't have E. And because he called Isma so early into this like whole like situation, and again, I don't know if this is Isma saying it or Irrelevant, but I'm just going to assume Irrelevant is the one who's actually telling him to do this. Flash Q. Dead. Amazing. Really well played in the first 3 waves by both players. So he's going to come back. This wave's going to bounce. He saves his TP. And then they're just going to play out the wave. Oscarinin has to be really careful. I mean, like, there is a definitive item difference here. He has to be just a little bit mindful in the beginning because there's a level 4 versus level 3 difference. So he just doesn't want to actively, like, throw his entire body before he kind of equalizes that situation. And now he would love to keep the wave if possible. But you're going to notice... So some Jaxes might actually throw their body into this situation, like press QE, mess with him, get out. But keep in mind, his jungler has to go bot, right? Like his jungler did 3 camps into this. His jungler needs to go back bot, do whatever he needs to do down here. he can stall the wave, but if he takes too much damage, he also can make himself a play. And in the end, he doesn't mind taking the time to kind of just carefully CS, let this guy take a base, and kind of just do his thing. Because I assume this guy will take a base because he doesn't have items, right? He takes a base. And so now he can build the wave and they can play for grubs very easily, or even redive because he's going to get like another like growing situation. So for Irrelevant, he's just thinking about the big picture, right? He's not just thinking about how do I min-max like my situation of freezing the wave or whatever like that. Like he's just thinking, well, I just have a standard set of plays that I can just like play on and that'll be fine. So he's able to get a nice little trade. Again, Renekton has E. And he's close. And so notice when he's close, when the Renekton is close to the Jax, wow. The Renekton cannot E out. He literally cannot E out of this situation. The Jax will always get it. So this is Oscarinin making the same mistake again. I'm gonna assume Irrelevant knows this. Like, okay, so this guy actually isn't that smart about like this matchup. And so he gets another fat trade. Meanwhile, his mid, if we notice here, sorry, I want to go right here. His mid takes a base now. His mid is ready to fight for grubs. His mid has first move, like has initiative. Yeah, his bot lane's dying. Shit happens. But his Nico's able to move first. And he's growing a wave top, which means that once again, if your Nico can move and may be involved in this situation, it's really good. So notice that the Nico places wards, clears vision. He's getting this push in. Oscarinin, not really thinking about it, is trying to contest this wave to kind of burn it, but he's only taking more trades, and Irrelevant's like, great, we'll make this happen, this works for me. And here comes Nico. And so it turns into like a pretty weird situation, because obviously Fnatic kind of know this is coming, that like this, like something like this can happen. And so Niski's able to actually get out of turret range with his R, with the flash, which is really helpful. Cancels that. Jax is like, okay, let's go. Does his burst damage. They're able to kill him. Sorry. They're able to kill him, get out. And in most cases, you would leave the Nico to die. But if you're going to notice what Irrelevant does, Irrelevant's like, okay, I got a biscuit. I can get the mana back pretty easily. He's able to land the E, and the Jax is like, okay, I'll take the kill. And then only once the second W might have hit, because if he gets hit by the W, he'll get hit by E and he'll probably die. He flashes out. And so now the Jax is 201 off 2 coordinated dives that he most likely brought up to the team to make happen. And I can tell you again, you can be a good player, but if you don't talk or create strategy, you're not that useful. Irrelevant is doing both. That in itself is incredible. Now, since the Senju is like well, sorry, not the Senju, the Rel is first on top side, Jax feels like he can actually trade, so that's why he actually moves in. So again, another indicator that Jax, the Irrelevant, is actively thinking about what his jungler is doing. So he's able to get a nice trade. Oscarinin is definitely not an ideal Renekton player. Let's say that. He is definitely not an ideal Renekton player. And Irrelevant is taking advantage of that. They're able to get the grubs. You know, naturally, if you're taking the grubs, your bot lane's going to be like put in an awkward situation. So for now, it's like, okay, like my team has to go back and help with them. So it's just a 1v1, pure 1v1. Notice like he was almost tempted because his Nico was going to move down to protect. He was almost like okay with a free situation top to collect midway, so that was not lost. Because as long as you're preventing the plates from being dropped, it's like fine. But they regrouped, so he's back towards top side. And then you're gonna see lovely Oscarinin try to make another play. But instead of like just accepting the loss, he kind of eased forward, and this kind of screws him over. And now he can't necessarily be dove without some serious risk, especially as Jax used his R, so like the burst damage is gone. Like he probably would never be dove just because he has this. The only way would be if he had this up. But they continue, you know. It's just like I said, it's just a 1v1. A lot of situations are occurring on bot side. He didn't know where Sejuani was yet at this point. Like, she could still remain bot. Sorry, let's go to here. So he sees like the Seju moving here, right, to the Gromp. They're AD based. He's doing the camps. It's pretty equivalent, and you know he's trying to go into Titanic Rush, right? And at this point, like, yeah, like Seju can be down here, especially if they think they're gonna re-dive. But if they don't think they're gonna re-dive and he's pathing up and his jungler is going for this play, naturally he doesn't want to just be making himself a play either. So it's just taking the idea of, I can keep risking and putting myself in a situation where maybe I could be a play, but it's not worth it when he has no flash and he doesn't have a trinket ward to jump to kind of buy time, and he doesn't have his R either. So he's missing like his three core capabilities of escaping a situation, if there ever was a situation, which is why, again, he's pretty damn good. Like, it's just the idea of playing around what spells, what resources you have, and where is your team placing the resources on the map. So as we continue, he takes his base and he avoids any kind of situation where he could be a play top, and he buys Titanic. Now notice the Renekton, he's freezing the top side. Well, not freezing, it's like how to say it, a light freeze. In that it's gonna hold for just a little bit and then he can rebuild. But he hasn't taken his base yet, and you're gonna notice the Jax. So he hits the minion. I think he hits the minion, not him. For the Titanic proc that pops the bone plate, and then he goes all in. This guy doesn't immediately double E back because he's not really thinking about it. And since Jax used his Q and has no flash, technically he can't reach Renekton if Renekton double E's. But the Titanic burst damage is actually enough to kill Renekton, which ends his life, and now the lane is pretty doomed. At this point, the Renekton, he can push another wave, and it's a cannon wave, so there's a little bit of time to buy. His team's kind of fighting over this dragon and like the control in general, but since he came here, they're able to get a kill like this. And then this kill translates into them also taking the second dragon. So even though he loses 2 plates, it's 2 plates for a kill plus second drag, which, yeah, I mean, like, for his lane's sake, it's not like the best, but for his team's sake, it's great. And this is where you kind of focus on what a player actually contributes to the team, because a lot of times you'll see a player as actually ahead, like has good control, especially in mid. You might maybe see your Katarina's like 8-0 whatever, and yeah, or like 4-0, and like, yeah, she'll dominate fights, but you, the jungler or whatever, doesn't really feel it, because it's just, well, you're just killing this guy, but like I have no control still. You're still not helping me do anything, so it feels pretty bad. So yeah, and like, you know, he trades in when he can because he has jungler backing him up. Again, good insight by him. He's able to just hit the turret freely, no care. TP's back, still pressuring. He's living a happy life, takes the turret. Like, he's thriving, right? Now, keep in mind, at this point in the game, you know, his bot lane is just a little bit behind. Mid lane, like a little bit ahead, but it's not really too serious. His jungler is quite behind. But the style of jungler, it doesn't really matter. It's not too impacting. So initially, they go through bot. They have Herald. They send the Herald both times down here. That's pretty good for him, because if like he can get a deep push off the bot tier 1 being down, then he can always shift into mid. And that's what he kind of starts doing. He starts using his push to kind of gain control and boost his team's play in mid waves, which is great for them, because even though Renata is a good pick at dealing with like these champs running at you, these three champs right here are pretty good at just finding catches on mid waves. So having Jax always there will be a huge benefit to the team. You see Seju showing, so he doesn't pressure, right? Again, they get another dragon, so now they're just one dragon away from the soul. Everything's looking pretty good. He feels confident in pushing this out. Especially because this guy deep push, so you kind of have like an idea that it might probably is like fine. Does he have a pink ward? Personally, if I was him, I probably would pink ward somewhere in this area at this point. I just need to double check to see if someone was showing when he did this. So when Blitz shows there, I probably go in and I do pink this. Either pink this or pink this. Like this one's a little bit harder to defend. This one's a lot better for him in general. Mostly because if he's gonna make a lot of these movements into mid, having vision to see if someone's coming to attack him, he can sit on bot side, he can feint, he can commit. There's a lot of good opportunities, right? And so he makes a play on mid, and he uses his flash to do this. Unfortunately, there's really no one available to kind of make this play better. So it really turns into nothing. And after this play, he should go straight bot because Renekton is pushing his wave, right? And he wants to kind of ensure this is okay. But they kind of extend this to try to get more sums on top side and create a situation, which at this point, it kind of allows Renekton to get a bot tier 2. So now he's let Renekton get 2 plates and a bot tier 2. And the first time was fine because he got drag and a kill. But this time is not so great because all you're really getting is Sejuani's flash. And the Renekton is pushing further and further into like being able to 1v1 and maybe fight. And because he went Rookern, let's say Rookern, or Canic, whatever you want to say it, plus Mercs, he doesn't have a second damage item, which I'm not as fond of, especially because he's already in such a lead versus Renekton that he could just maintain it for the rest of the game. And yeah, the MR is fine, but it's also not like Azir is too terribly ahead, and he's the only main threat to think about. That I think itemization wise, his second option is not ideal. And then, like I said, if you make certain plays to help your team, make sure you're still not fully sacking yourself in some ways. And in this case, it was not that good. Now, they're lucky enough in that Azir is randomly contesting top side, even though his team is clearly helping the Renekton to escape. So this guy should never be here. He already got the push. Like, the fact that he got this push and then he could dip is already a win for Fnatic. But their team doesn't really pay attention to that, so he kind of just dies. And it creates this situation where they're fighting for Baron. And they'll hook Irrelevant. Irrelevant doesn't really have to do anything in this case, because I mean, once he gets hooked and he leaves, he's just waiting for his teammates to kind of make a play afterwards. So far, you know, the 4-0 Jax is basically impacted. They were able to get the bot tier 1 and the mid tier 1 off Herald, and then also just the power of Jax. And then they were able to get a couple sums. And so that's about it so far. 2 dragons, Herald, some grubs, 3 turrets. I guess you could say all 3 outer turrets because of Jax's lead. But so far in the mid game, it's not been as much. So again, you know, he pushes top side, he's coming down, and now he's pressuring with a flank. He comes in. Oops, slowing it. He comes in. Where's his teammates? This guy has no flash, so it's going to be a little bit hard for him to fully reach. Nico is a little far away, so it's a lot dependent on his stun. And nothing really amounts to anything. Kind of lost his R. He went in, but no one was close enough to make the situation like good. So he went a little too early. Now, of course, I will say this. While he's going in, Fnatic also doesn't anticipate this, and they end up having to use multiple Rs, which is not as ideal. So, like, he hooks him, which is bad, right? Like, he doesn't have to hook him. And technically, because they know Jax has no flash from earlier, if Azir shuffles him into the turret, he's fucked. he's dead. So this is not as good of a play by Irrelevant, and it shows that, like I said, while he can roam mid to pressure, the fact that he's not capable of side laning to keep the push, ward, and then just kind of chill out is not as ideal. Now, he did move down also because he doesn't have TP, so in this case, I'll give it a little, like, it's not as bad as the case before this, because again, like, he wants to be present for this dragon, and so this is what the fight turns into, and then they're just like, well, we're giving them space here. He's standing here. He can't really maintain like the pressure here necessarily. Technically, he could actually, I guess technically he could be hitting this because there's no Seju R. And he has a pink ward to kind of hop away. There's no Azir R. Honestly, he probably should have just been on this. Ideally, he should have been on this. And then his teammates, I mean, he has 2 members who are like contesting up the mid wave, but ideally, like, they should just give this up. Like, they should have already been running this way, or just like give up the wave and just keep this control. So it's a little awkward. They go in right away. Jax is like, okay, I'm gonna just jump on your core set here, and that's it. Like, literally, he didn't even really have to do much here. Like, these guys kind of set themselves up because they don't have a 0R to kind of deal with this Jax coming in, and yeah, not good. Not good by Fnatic, to say the least. And that kind of cements it, because once they get Baron, it's really hard for Fnatic to do anything. Like, the Baron is what gives his rest of his teammates the capabilities to kind of push through. So if I keep this on 8 times speed at this point, he's gonna hit, play through. You know, they're gonna get into some situations like this, whatever, you know. You could literally zoom through and go all the way to the end this last fight, because literally this is what it's coming down to. And again, I just want to state that Jax should have had more side pressure, and he should have had more impact from just creating, like, pulling multiple enemies like Seju and Renekton to attack him, or make a 0 Renekton to attack him inside, versus always having to constantly just jump into mid, or at least have better control with his support or his pink wards to enable his ability to feint or move without being seen and having that impact. But some of his choices were not the most ideal, I'll be honest, but his laning phase was fantastic. Like, Oscarinin is not a good Renekton based on this one game, or at least not good in this matchup, and Irrelevant punished him, and he called his shots on mid real early. And then this last fight, you know, let's let it play through a little bit. This guy gets a little catch. He kind of just jumps in, and that's it. You know, like, he's playing a very supportive Jax game. Like, his items are very geared towards grouping and just chilling with the team. And he's very tanking that, like, yeah, he probably won't die. And that's fine if you want to play it that way, but he could have gotten a lot more for how this game was in the end. But yeah, that's my Irrelevant VOD review. Like I said, I think there's things I missed about him, or I didn't really observe as much about him, that made me put him lower, but I would definitely put him higher based on how this game went. And then there's also, I still would not put him too terribly high though. Like, still not in the same stratosphere as like Broken Blade. Because some of these flank ideas and how he could have pushed this game more, you know, a better player will do more of that. But for now, SK being 4-1, yeah, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. Make sure to like and subscribe, and see you guys later.